Hello, dear viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I have a big smile on my face because I am very proud of the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, those who are striking, their head, their leader, who is really taking on the issues that so many Americans are facing, which is the American workers not being part of the increase in productivity, increase in profits that companies have seen over the last 3, 4, 5 decades? No. Yeah. It started to stagnate. We started to see that leveling off already in the late 70s. So this is a big issue because there's a CEO of one of the 3 great automakers in the US here, which is General Motors, Ford, and the other is the parent company of Chrysler. So there was one of these CEOs that has, I think it's the Ford company, whose salary raised just exponentially, while the workers were being told, you don't get cost of living raises. We're still recovering from the Great Recession, and you just have to put up with this. You know, they weren't getting these kinds of raises. They weren't getting much at all. And in fact, they developed this tier system where auto workers could be working there for years without getting access to full-time benefits. And maybe they're there 2 years, they're making 19, 20 to, oh no, the one $18 an hour I heard. This is ridiculous because this is hard work. This is work that costs them. They're standing on concrete all day. They're moving. They're lifting. This is not easy work. So they're on strike. Negotiations did fall out. You know, they did break down and they're on strike. So let's see. I cannot wait to find out what we're going to see here. I'm asking Source to pick every card and make the interpretations very clear to us for accurate and helpful information. I want to ask questions too about what this means for workers across the US, because this really is, I mean, these workers are charging forward. They're leading the charge, and we're going to see more strikes, I think. But let's see. Okay, so are they successful? And I feel like that's a loaded question because what does successful mean? But are they successful in a general way in the future? We have the Emperor. Okay, well, it looks to me like they're going to stand strong on their demands, which is getting rid of the tier system. Yes, a pay raise. Let's see. The challenge is they're still going to be nickel and dime. There's the 6 of coins, like the wealthy benefactor just giving pennies to those below. Okay. I don't like the Emperor, frankly. I mean, I feel like that means they're going to stand strong. That's good. But the Emperor makes me wonder, are these big automotive companies going to try to use the law? Are they going to try to use legal processes to shut them down in dirty ways, you know? And, you know, politicians may let them do that. We did see during Reagan years, Reaganomics gutted a lot of the power of unions, and that's been a big problem. And so the UAW is coming up trying to gain in power still under those old laws. So I'm a little concerned about that. Underneath it all, we have the 4 of Swords, retreat. Okay, I just feel like we're going to hear a lot about back and forth negotiations. UAW not coming to the table until this condition's met. The large companies not coming on this. You know, we're going to hear that. Okay, past is the Queen of Cups. That's right, the Queen of Cups. See, our society is changing as we're getting more information out there. We're all of us human beings are having more of a voice on social media, everywhere, sharing information. We are the compassion. You know, we want to think of ourselves as compassionate people. We want to demand compassion, not exploitation. So this is looking, we're not, we're not coming up in an era where workers are just glad to be able to feed themselves. Workers want some dignity. Although a lot of the workers there are having to choose, of course, at those rates, and a lot of Americans, between healthcare versus rent. Food sometimes versus rent. Above it all, we have the strength card, divine strength and protection. Okay, so I heard it right. So I saw Mr. Fain. He is the head of the union. I saw him quoting scripture during an interview, and there was such power in his words. I'm like, he means it. He's got a spiritual life. He is guided. So that's a good thing. That's divine strength and protection. I like that. So in other words, I almost feel like that's saying the striking workers are not going to suffer terribly. Okay, there's some strength over them. And immediate future, Hierophant. There's some legal case. I don't know what this is. Something goes to the courts. And that's okay. Turns out that's okay. Because it may highlight unjust laws. Especially if the big three are able to gain some leverage through the court system in trying to shut down these strikes. Okay, root of the matter is the devil. It's a bedevil process. This will go on. That's telling me this is going to go on. Will the strikes be expanded? Because right now 15% of workers are striking. And the big three, they don't know which company, which factory, in which city is going to be shut down next, right? Where the workers would. And so the UAW is trying to use that in their favor. But this is a bedeviled process, and it looks like the strike does indeed expand then, from what I'm seeing. The Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups. But this is a good thing. This gets them somewhere. This gets them, okay, this actually is effective, and I see it getting the UAW more concessions from the big three. Not enough, but more. Root of the matter. Page of Swords. Okay, so that's cautioning us. I feel like a lot of times that card comes up. The Page of Swords just talks off the top of his head. It's the beginning of a thought. It's the beginning of a plan. It's sometimes kind of aggressive. Sometimes this would be, to me, that would be clickbait. Would be the Page of Swords would be clickbait. So it's sort of like, okay, be careful. You might not get the whole story by the most dramatic headlines. Okay, that's sort of like that. And yeah. Okay, well then it's a good thing we're doing a reading, right? We'll get the real scoop. Environmental effects, Tower. Okay. Wow, the Tower. This changes everything, that means. These strikes change everything. Mr. Fain changes everything. The auto workers change everything. So, in other words, yes, we do see more strikes. Yes, we do see civil liberties union challenging anti-labor laws in the courts. Yes, we do see, gosh, we do. We see all this. It's beginning. It's really beginning. And the Actors Guild, they strike too. There have been strikes in other places too, but this is really, really going to get us somewhere, because the American public is going to throw their support behind the UAW, like just across the board. Biden is, Democratic lawmakers are, but the American public, my gosh, there's going to be, if there aren't already, there are going to be charities to donate to support striking workers, to help them. Yes, not to say it's not still a sacrifice for them, but I love that Lion card, that strength card above it all. That's a supernatural card of protection. I think there's protection for the workers. Okay, hopes and fears. 8 of Swords. Okay, well, that to me means the hopes and fears, like this can't happen, that can't happen, are illusory, right? Because the Eight of Swords woman, she can walk through the swords. If she just wiggled around a little, took her blindfold down, she could see she is not trapped. So there might be a lot of things that are said in the news that are like, this can't happen. We just can't, the big three can't give them anything like this. I mean, they'll bankrupt themselves. The workers have to understand this cannot happen. They cannot be given the money that they want to be given. And that's not true. What I'm seeing is that's not true. And don't buy it. Outcome is the Three of Cups. There's a celebration. Okay, I think that means there is a resolution to this strike. It looks to me like there's some back and forth for a bit, but there is a resolution that is cause for celebration. The clarifier is the Nine of Wands. Okay, I'm hearing this. This is what I'm hearing. Don't think that the difficulty unions have had over the last how many decades is going to continue. This is what I'm hearing. Don't think that things can't change, because they sure can. It is a new day. That's what I'm hearing. Because see, now this man, is fearful, right? Worried. Because see, since protections for striking workers have really decreased since the Reagan years, people have been fired very readily for striking, for even joining unions. They're not supposed to be able to be, but it happens all the time. People are fired for talking about joining a union. And this is, the Amazon warehouses had a lot of trouble with this. Recently, the Amazon warehouse workers had a lot of trouble with this. You even talk union, you're fired. You talk bringing a union in. So there might be some collective post-traumatic stress disorder, fear of, you just can't take on the big companies. But this is a new day. And the celebration, the win, the UAW, and I don't feel like they get all their demands, but they get a win. The win they get starts a new thing. The other clarifier is the moon. Okay, it might be kind of mysterious. There are things going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. So even when they're saying there is no negotiating happening, it is. It still is, actually. And of course, there's a lot of strategizing then behind the scenes at the big companies, at the big three. How to, seriously, every dirty trick. How to try to sue them into oblivion, sue the union into oblivion. How to try to use the law, or abuse the law, or get some local politicians, or change some things, making it tougher for the strikers. That's what I feel like is going on behind the scenes. However, all that does not matter. And in fact, it tips their hand to let the public know more about the dirty tricks that can be used and will be used against labor. So I'm seeing celebration. Now, it's not a major arcana, it's a minor arcana. So I'm seeing, I don't know that they get all of their demands, okay? But, and in fact, I'm not sure, in fact, that there won't be some workers fired. I don't know what kind of sneaky way they're going to do that. But there have been layoffs right away of non-union workers. And of course, the big three companies blaming that on the union workers. So that's kind of awful. But, not to say that I don't see any difficulties, but I definitely see a victory. And the victory, the greater victory, is in making this part of public discourse, is making the large corporations think twice before they slash benefits or do all this nonsense. Because guess what? The American public knows the tricks. Tier system, whatever. Pension, no pensions. We'll take that, we'll take this, we'll take a little bit from here, we'll take a little bit from there, and pretty soon you don't have enough to live on. And pretty soon you have workers going to work and going home to no home and sleeping in their cars. This is not okay. And I think the Americans have about had enough. And that's what the cards suggest. So I do want to ask a few more things. Yeah. So a patron asked me, are we moving to a place where companies are treating their workers like human beings? Versus machines? Let's see. Are we moving into a place where companies are treating workers like human beings, or more companies are? Let's say that, because I do think the research shows that some smaller companies actually do a much better job by their workers, although they a lot of times can't afford to pay as much, but there's more humane treatment. Let's see. Are we moving to that place? Okay. We have the Two of Coins. Okay. That to me suggests yes and no. That to me says, okay, yeah, some industries, some companies will be genuinely putting money and time into figuring out how to make their jobs more workable, more attractive. There will be some, but then there will be maybe half doing things the old-fashioned way. Like, oh, we're just going to keep playing the same games. We're going to keep by the old playbook. See, the thing is, the companies are not realizing it's a new day. A lot of the baby boomers have retired and are retiring, and there's a lack of labor out there. And I think some of the companies think AI is going to make up the difference. Well, I don't think it will. We always overestimate how quickly that kind of thing will happen. So, I mean, yes, there will be fewer workers needed in the long term and in some areas, but it's not going to be quick enough. It's not going to be fast enough. They're going to have to really actually use the dang AI to study what makes a workplace more livable, what factors are minimally necessary to keep employees, and they will ask themselves what factors are minimally necessary, but they do need to devote time and effort and attention to this. And I think it looks like by that Two of Coins, half of the companies will begin doing this, or some have already. Justice card. There again, though, we have two scales. So it's sort of like half and half, but then the Justice card to me too means fairness. See, the American workers, we have access to all this information. We can see the graphs. We know that it's a line of BS to say, the company can't afford to give you this. They're going to crumble. We know that's not true. We know that's not true. Okay, let's see. What else? Will the CEOs see this huge disparity between CEO pay and the workers' pay? Will that shrink? Because the CEO pay is a lot of times, $26 million. It's stuff like that, It can be more than that. Will this huge disparity start shrinking? Ace of Swords. Interesting. Like it's a lot of the reasoning behind paying those CEOs that much is flawed. There's a lot in the background. See, the Ace of Swords to me feels like information's being given from source. There are secrets that need to come out. There's info that needs to come out. Intelligence, logic that needs to come out. But so far it's sort of been really muddied. Again, these companies, they need to be using the new technology to really figure out what the consequences of some of these CEOs' decisions are, short-term and long-term. I feel like the CEOs who are willing to lay off people, to implement whatever it takes to increase the profits and increase the value on the stock market, I feel like they're favored and they're given huge salaries. And they don't really care. They're not really invested in the company. They don't know the workers. And they move on from one job to another to another. So when the long-term effects of their decisions come forward, they're gone, There's a lot of information that needs to come out, because big business The model it's been using, profit before everything, and short-term profit before long-term profit usually, is flawed, is very flawed. So they need to be learning more about that. Will they be? We have seeing things from a new perspective, turning things on its head, a delay. We also have a delay with the hanged man. So they're stubborn. I mean, it just takes a while for them to start really using the technology they have to get real data, not just working on assumptions that have guided them for decades. Okay, so let us see. Yes, are we going to move to a shorter work week? Here's the other thing. Now, and this is true in a lot of countries, but in the US, work weeks for salaried people can be 60 hours a week. They can be 70 hours a week. They get no protection. And more frequently, companies are using salaries to get around fair labor laws. Fair labor laws were set up in the 30s, saying that people who worked hourly wages would have to be given time and a half pay for every hour over 40 in a week. They'd have to be getting their wage plus half again for those hours. Salaried people don't get that. And again, more and more white-collar jobs are being salaried so that these people can be exploited. So there's that issue. And also, there's the issue of, there still can be mandatory overtime for people, even if they are getting the time and a half. The kind of work Americans do now, there are so many measures on their productivity. Oh, see, companies have used AI quite extensively to do that, to surveil their workers and measure their productivity. How much are you getting done? How much downtime do you have? Like in Amazon warehouses are famous for this, where the workers have sometimes peed in jugs because if they take their bathroom break and walk to the bathroom, they will not get enough packages out and they will get written up and potentially fired after so many write-ups. So, or their pay will be docked, things like that. So the workers, a lot of times, okay, even if it is 40 hours a week, it might be the equivalent of a lot more than that because it is so oppressive. It is so intense. Are we going to see any kind of progress on that? On either decreasing hours worked, decreasing productivity expectations? Let's see. We have the Queen of Swords. There's going to be a lot of press about that. People are going to talk about productivity expectations a lot more. And is this even good? It's not good for people's mental health. It's not good for people's physical health. And perhaps, it comes to bear on the salaried positions as well, because see, what they've done is, whereas 30 years ago, maybe the productivity expectations for a salaried professional was sort of reasonable, could sort of be done in 40 hours a week, they just kept adding work and productivity expectations to those people. So now that's why they are working 60 and 70 hours a week. You know what I mean? So we've got to start talking productivity expectations. The Nine of Swords, Nine of Wands, some people are downright traumatized, I feel like, by certain workplaces. It's horrible for people's mental health. And we have the Three of Coins. You know what I see? I see more workplaces building a more workable environment, a more workable job, and maybe productivity expectations are looked at in that context. But that's a tough one. I feel like they'd rather do anything else than decrease productivity expectations. So what else do we have? We have the Moon. There's a lot in the background. So I hope that we do all start talking about that a lot more. I think there's a little fear of talking about that in a way, because we Americans, and this is true in a lot of cultures, have been so brainwashed, and I believe information going out on media has been funded to really increase our work ethic, Work ethic. Don't complain. Go to work. Expect to work hard. Expect to work long. And if you don't, you're lazy. Or if you don't, you're just trying not to do your fair share. We have been, this personal responsibility doctrine has been very strong since Reagan. And that was by design. That was by design. That was big business, really wealthy people pulling some levers. And I think we're challenging that now. Gen Z is really challenging that. The millennials are, I hope they're starting to challenge that. The millennials started in their careers during the Great Recession, most of them. So it's like they learned, it was so hard to get a job. I think that was scarring for a lot of them. Like they learned to just, okay, I can't cut back. I've got to compete. I've got to work hard. And you bet the big corporations have really exploited that. But Gen Z, seeing their Gen X and millennial parents give up their health to keep their jobs, they're not willing, and see the stress it brings their family. They would rather just throw away the whole American dream than buy into that. How is that source? We have the Knight of Cups. But yet, doesn't mean Gen Z is going to, or the millennials, it doesn't mean they're not planning to work. It doesn't mean they're not planning to be good candidates. It doesn't mean they've given up. It just means that they're going to demand their worth more. Let's see. No, some will. Some will retreat from the rat race entirely. From the get-go, they're just like, I'm not doing that. I don't care how long I live with my parents. I'm not doing that. Queen of Cups, again, with the more compassionate tendencies growing in our culture, growing in humanity. People are not okay with this. People are not okay with having to give up their health and well-being, and a lot of times their relational health in their families to make enough for basics. Okay, well, we're seeing huge changes. I like the tower on this. This is the beginning of huge change. Support the UAW, and I'm just thrilled with them. I'm praying for them, supporting them. Use your voice. Thank you all so much. Take care. Bye-bye.